Dolls, stuffed animals, chocolate bars. These are the things that consumed many of our childhood days. The things we begged our parents for, traded with friends, stashed away in our bedrooms. But somehow now it's adults who can't get enough of them. Yes, Gen Z is collecting Labubu dolls.
I have literally spent over $1,000 trying to get the gold Labubu. Like, please be it, bro. Like, I've literally dedicated every dollar I've had trying to get the gold Labubu. Oh my god, please be it, please. I want it so bad. Oh my god! Oh my god! It's the gold Labubu! This is real 24 karat gold! Oh my god, these are so rare! It's even more beautiful in person!
Squishmallow plushies are piled up on many of their beds.
Show me your favorite Squishmallow. Show me your most expensive Squishmallow. Show me the Squishmallow you hug the most. Show me the Squishmallow you have duplicates of. Your smallest Squishmallow. Your biggest Squishmallow. The Squishmallow you take on trips. The Squishmallow you play with the most. And your favorite personality of your Squishmallows.
Dubai chocolate bars have also gone viral with Gen Z.
Dubai chocolate bar mukbang.
There's even a Labubu-shaped Dubai chocolate that's gone viral. It feels like a lot of today's 20-somethings just refuse to grow up. But their obsession with nostalgic, childlike consumer junk is really just a symptom of a culture that profits from adults longing for simpler, more childlike times. Let's discuss why today's young adults are practically living in perpetual childhood. So right now we're living through the age of the Kidult, which of course is a portmanteau of kid and adult. The term was first coined in the 1950s by TV industry executives to refer to adults who watched TV shows that were intended for children, and it's been having a resurgence again in the past couple of years. And adults buying toys for themselves now account for 28% of all global toy sales. So we've talked about Labubu dolls a few times in passing, but today I wanted to talk a little bit more about them. Labubu dolls are these cartoonish, bunny-eared plush creatures that for some reason have become the it accessory of the year. Labubus went viral after Blackpink's Lisa, and influencers were seen wearing them as purse charms. And suddenly now they're selling out worldwide. A grown man had an entire temper tantrum after being told that Labubus were sold out at his location. So in addition to Labubu mania that we're currently experiencing, Hello Kitty also had a resurgence a couple years ago. In 2023, Hello Kitty clawed its way back into pop culture prominence. A lot of young women were proudly sporting Hello Kitty phone cases, throw blankets, stuffed animals, and all kinds of Hello Kitty themed items.
Oh, no, it's not hoarding. You see, I'm a collector collecting collections.
I mean, why just sell plain coffee mugs when you can sell Hello Kitty themed coffee mugs to a 22-year-old for twice the price, so they pay for that charm? Squishmallows have also blown up over the past few years. They're these round, squishy, plushy, marshmallowy stuffed animals. Back in 2021, Squishmallows first took over. During the pandemic, a bunch of young Gen Zers were taking to TikTok to share their Squishmallow hunts.
Well, started at Five Below. They had these mini guys. I didn't want one. Then I searched through. I only found these three, but then I found this rainbow lion, and I got him because I had to have him. Next up was a Walgreens. We went in. They had a lot more here, but no Baby Yoda, and I ended up getting Nemo because I liked his little fin. Next was CVS. They had nothing. Walgreens again. They had some big ones, but nothing else. Again, Walgreens, no Baby Yoda, but my big dragon they had, and this parrot, and I got them both. Next was another Walgreens. I needed Baby Yoda. No Baby Yoda. But we found the shark.
And it was reported last year that 65% of Squishmallow buyers were between the ages of 18 and 24. A few years ago, it might have been embarrassing for a young adult to still have stuffed animals on their bed. Now it's the trend. Now it's cool. Major toy companies like Mattel and Lego have all latched onto the kidult market. They've rolled out products specifically aimed at nostalgic young adults, and it's working. Then there's this recent Dubai chocolate craze. Obviously, chocolate is something that we all enjoy regardless of our ages, but the way people are acting like kids on Christmas with this Dubai chocolate bar, it's on another level. The original bar came from a Dessert Chocolatier in Dubai, and in late 2023, a TikToker posted herself eating the chocolate bar, complete with all of the nasty chewing sounds that mukbang watchers seem to enjoy. And then it went viral and it spawned a bunch of other businesses copying the Dubai chocolate bar. Like Trader Joe's launched their own Dubai chocolate bar. Crumbl Cookies are launching a brownie version of the Dubai chocolate bar. And the chocolate brand Lindt created their own version of the chocolate bar as well. A couple of viral TikToks led to this $15 luxury chocolate bar because chocolate is now a luxury. It led to it being viral almost overnight, all because it looked magical and glittery. It was filled with this glittery looking pistachios that remind us of our childhood. It's giving Willy Wonka. And now young people are chasing after this whimsical looking chocolate bar like they're Chocolate Boy from Hey Arnold.
Chocolate, chocolate, chocolate.
And the chocolate bar craze has been so strong that now there's a global shortage of pistachios because of all these brands who ran to mass produce their very own Dubai chocolates. TikTok's social and cultural capital is so strong at this moment that it can have the power to influence vast agricultural economies, all because of the high demand spikes. So these Kidult products are just one side of the nostalgia economy. On the other side are these endless remakes that we keep seeing from Disney and from Marvel and all of these major film studios that keep remaking movies from our childhood. I'm a millennial, but also Gen Z's childhood as well. You probably notice like every time you scroll through new movie releases, half of them are live action remakes of old Disney cartoons, or they're yet another Marvel superhero installment, or a revival of a franchise that should have ended decades ago. Basically, everything that is old is new again in Hollywood. Capitalists have mastered the art of exploiting our longing for the past, our longing for a time where things were more innocent, where things were simpler, particularly in an era where your daily life as an adult is so fraught with uncertainty, so fraught with precarity, so fraught with instability. A lot of these movies give us a particular sense of comfort and security that we only felt when we were children. When our biggest concern was whether our Tamagotchi pet was fed. Is that Gen Z? That's millennial, maybe. But yeah, when you're a kid, your biggest concern is whether your Tamagotchi was fed, not whether you're fed, not whether you'll be able to afford groceries or afford rent. Cultural theorist Mark Fisher, who wrote the book Capitalist Realism, which is one that we've cited quite a few times on this channel in the past, he famously argued that despite all of this talk of how capitalism breeds innovation, it's actually starved our culture of the ability to imagine anything truly new. Just think of how social media platforms have all incorporated some form of short form content just because TikTok started that. Now YouTube has shorts. Now Instagram has reels. And all of these social media platforms are starting to look more and more the same. Just think about how all these platforms are incorporating like AI bots, AI characters onto the platforms. You can talk to an AI person on Instagram. There's apparently a racist AI bot on Twitter. We keep resurrecting the past because it's more profitable to repackage the same things instead of actually innovating and thinking of something new. In Fisher's view, the 21st century has become haunted by quote unquote lost futures. And we're seeing that now in the constant remixing of nostalgic trends. But to really understand why this is so profitable, we have to understand the harsh realities that Gen Z is living in. I already did that in depth in my video on how Gen Z is addicted to shopping, so I won't spend too long on it here. But yeah, the previous markers of adulthood, like having a stable job and a stable home that you own, financial security, they're all becoming increasingly out of reach. When I think about how at so many points of our childhood days it felt so euphoric, why did it feel euphoric? Because you were unbothered. You didn't have to worry about rent or bills. You didn't know, at least not the full extent of the evils of the world. So that's what makes returning to childhood so appealing. I get it entirely. The job market has been utterly catastrophic and unstable as of late. It's being called the worst job market for grads in years. Even college-educated Gen Z folks are finding it hard to find jobs. It's not uncommon to find a barista who has a bachelor's degree. It's not uncommon to see bartenders with bachelor's degrees, all because they cannot break into their field that they went to school for. And many of them are forced to live with their parents as a result. We've talked about this a million and one times, so again, I'm not going to get into it too much. Wages are not keeping up with inflation. A lot of these traditional adult milestones are being delayed or completely foregone. So you're 25 and you're technically an adult, but you don't actually feel like an adult. You're then more likely to indulge in cheap consumerist junk in order to cope. You know what they say, when you live with your parents, you often pay with your mental health. And so they're basically faced with only having one kind of freedom, which is consumerism. Important to note that this generation also came of age during a global pandemic, which obviously disrupted their schooling. A lot of them were in digital learning environments. A lot of them didn't get to have the happening social life that a lot of us had when we were teens. And I think all of that considered, it's left them feeling profoundly insecure. So what do people do when reality feels unbearable or just plain disappointing? They seek refuge in the past. I think for a lot of Gen Z, diving into the toys and all of the things that remind them of their childhoods, or even if they didn't have that childhood, an idealized version of the childhood that they never quite had, it's all a way to cope. Why? Because capitalism alienates us from community, meaningful work, and the ability to shape all of our futures. And of course, we cannot ignore the role of social media, right? I saw someone say this, and I don't know who it was, but I'm just saying that this is not my original thought. Boomer financial advice does not work for today's generation because today's generation is faced with a lot of other barriers. They're faced with having to look at their peers 24/7 through a phone. They're faced with having to look at influencers 24/7 through a phone and constantly compare themselves to the lives that they see on social media. These algorithms are very smart. They're going to serve you with what all the other 21-year-olds are obsessing over that week. If Labubu dolls or Hello Kitty toasters are trending amongst your age cohort, that's what's going to fill up your feed. There is a huge social incentive to participating in all of these trends. In a lot of social circles, not participating can get you social backlash. Imagine being in a college dorm where everyone has their room decorated with Squishmallows and Labubus, and one student's room is plain because they're on a tight budget or they're just indifferent to the trend. It's not hard to imagine that the person who doesn't have their room decorated with all of those items is going to be teased and seen as boring, as broke, because the disdain that y'all have for poor people is on another level. When all of the other friends are gushing over their items that they have that are trendy on TikTok. Honestly, in 2025, if you're Gen Z and you don't have a social media presence, it makes you a weirdo. Not to me, but to a lot of your peers. Social media is ingrained into our lives for better or worse. A lot of these viral products and friend groups can serve as inside jokes. So when you don't buy in, you risk social exclusion. A popular influencer might show how obsessed they are with this retro Hello Kitty item or Labubu or Squishmallow. And that's implicitly telling millions of followers, this is what fun, successful young people buy. I think a lot of generations lose the plot when they say just stay off of social media because it's not real. But that is also ignoring the fact that social media is so infused with real life. If not for TikTok, do you think that Stanley Cups would have blown up the way they blew up? I think telling a Gen Zer to quit TikTok is tantamount to telling a boomer to not go to the disco in the 70s. It's tantamount to social suicide. TikTok is the disco of 2025. Thanks to third spaces being increasingly defunded, non-existent, disappearing. So yeah, culture shapes what we desire and how we behave. I mean, even for me as a millennial, I grew up at a time where everyone did not have an iPhone. I had one of those flip out phones. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was something like the Verizon chocolate bar. And then eventually I got a BlackBerry. So when I was graduating high school, I had my BlackBerry still. And the iPhone was really becoming ubiquitous at the time. I mean, I think it was like the iPhone 3 had just come out at that time. I had many of my classmates say to me, you still have a BlackBerry? Like, really? That's another thing of how much innovation capitalism breeds, because we used to have so many other new phones and now we only have like iPhone or Samsung. Or even like kids that grew up in the 80s and 90s, and when the Air Jordans first dropped, you felt like a loser going to school in your Skechers or New Balance or I don't know, whatever was popular back then. But the minute you pulled up in those Dunks and those Air Jordans, you were about to be celebrated when you went to school, particularly for young boys. Another thing too, I remember in like middle school and elementary school, all the rich girls used to have limited 2 backpacks and all these accessories. Those were expensive. And all I had was my raggedy old JanSport. I felt very, very left out. We learned from a young age that if we do not comply with the trends, there are social consequences. We learn from a young age to comply so we can avoid being bullied. I've seen moms on TikTok saying that their kids were bullied for not having Stanley cups.
So all last night, my daughter was like, can I borrow your cup? Can I borrow your cup? This is the cup. She was like, she calls it a Stanley. She was like, can I take your Stanley to school tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, you can take it. She's like, all my friends use Stanley cups. Like, they all have cups like that. Like, I want to take it. So she goes and she's like, oh, I got a Stanley like you guys. And these little girls are like, that doesn't look like a Stanley. So one little girl comes up to her and she's like, show me the bottom of your Stanley. And I guess Stanleys have logos at the bottom or something. So my daughter's like showing her the cup and she's like, yeah, that's not real. Your mom can't afford to buy you a real one.
Anyone who is different gets bullied, and so you learn at a young age to comply. If our culture was different, the pressure to conform would also be different. You know, I was watching Family Feud the other day. I am a big Family Feud fan. I like to watch Family Feud. I've always loved the game shows. I watch far too much Family Feud. But a few days ago, I was watching Family Feud, and the question was, we surveyed 100 women. Name something Kim Kardashian has that you wish you did. That was the question. So the question is obviously presupposing that Kim Kardashian is an aspirational figure and like all women want to be like her, surely. I was shocked to see that nothing was not on the board. I was just watching Family Feud, an innocent little game show, and yet here is this propaganda that's telling me that I should aspire to Kim Kardashian's looks, to her wealth, to her lifestyle. And this is the template for success, for aspiration that our culture promotes. Family Feud, TikTok trends. We're always being taught that we need to buy the right things, to follow the right trends, or we're nothing. There are 1,000,001 examples of popular culture teaching us that wealthy people are aspirational, that the more that you have, the more that you are. So is it any wonder that people overconsume this Labubu or $15 luxury chocolate or Squishmallows or the 1,000,001 other things that people overconsume in America? We're constantly being sold this message that celebrities are aspirational, that rich people are aspirational. For young men, it was Michael Jordan in the 80s and 90s, and he was a wonderful athlete. He deserved his flowers in terms of his athletic ability. But nevertheless, it's like, okay, his name is attached to these shoes, so now I want them. Michael Jordan didn't make the shoes in the factory, but he gets all of the reward because they slap his name on them. And you fetishize the commodity without even thinking about the labor that made them. A lot of older generations had their ways of checking out as well. Boomers would have and still do have a midlife crisis and buy themselves a Harley Davidson or a new sports car. And that was their way of feeling young and alive again. And let's not forget the Beanie Babies craze of the 90s, where plenty of grown adults, including boomers and Gen X, went bananas collecting them as investments and as stress relievers. So this impulse is not unique to Gen Z at all. The difference is that Gen Z's stressors are hitting at a younger age. They're much more widely visible. If we didn't live in a culture that glorified rich people and having the latest and greatest, living in luxury and halls and all of this crap, if we had more people that were countercultural and putting out a narrative that this all is meant to serve the interests of the ruling class by allowing you to cosplay as them without actually having their wealth and influence, to allow yourself to be manipulated by them, to allow yourself to stand billionaires. If we had more people speaking out against those root causes, if we were deprogramming our children of capitalist propaganda from a young age, yeah, they might grow up not wanting that. Of course, your kid is going to have to go to school. Of course, your kid is going to be exposed to media. But the more of us who are putting out counter narratives, the more we can shift the culture, because that is what we need, is a cultural paradigm shift. Let's celebrate the workers who actually do the labor, not the billionaires and multi-millionaires who just slap their names on the product and just sit back and collect the shares, all the while undercutting their workforce. Let's start there. We need to ask, how can we change the culture and the conditions so that people no longer need this escapism? Think about some major cultural changes that led to healthier human habits. Smoking in the mid-20th century used to be something that was cool. Everyone smoked. If you go back and watch old movies, everyone is smoking indoors, at restaurants. Then there was a concerted cultural campaign that made smoking socially unacceptable, and people became aware of how harmful it was. And smoking rates then plummeted because of that. Smoking, of course, leads to cancer, and cancer is essentially the overgrowth of cells that often become fatal. And in many ways, capitalism functions like a cancer. It thrives on endless growth, endless extraction of resources, endless expansion of markets, endless consumption, all at the expense of the environment and the working class. We need to be reminding people that there are more than what they consume, to develop a personality outside of consumption, to not valorize the rich. The moment you start to see a Labubu doll as a mass-produced item that's currently trending right now, that is going to end up in a landfill near you in, like, let's say 2 to 3 months, when it's no longer trending, that's when we start to see it for what it is and stop obsessing over it. And more importantly, improving material conditions will automatically reduce the need to want to, again, escape. And nostalgia itself is not an inherently bad thing. There's nothing wrong with being nostalgic. But when your nostalgia is pushing you into a hyper-consumerism identity where you're just buying and buying and buying to reclaim what you had, that's when you know it's gotten bad. But yeah, if Gen Z felt more secure in their future, if adulthood looked brighter, the emotional need to retreat to childhood would then lessen. It's hard to fantasize about being a kid again when your adult life is fulfilling and secure. It's more than just like grow up. I think we need to grow wise to the tricks of consumer capitalism. And the last thing I'll say is that at 21, 22, you're still young. If you're in your 20s, you're still a young person. You're not that far removed from being a teenager. I think that a 21-year-old personally is still a kid in many ways. When I think of my 21-year-old self and I look back at some of the decisions I made, oh my gosh, I'm horrified. So let's give people space to find who they are, absolutely. But I do think that past generations had that revolutionary spirit in spades at very young ages. I think that revolutionary energy of past young generations has largely been stifled by our culture of individualism and by late-stage capitalism, constantly telling people that their individual pursuits, that consumerism, that individual acquisition is most important. A lot of young people today are in this ontological crisis where their sense of self is shaped by their material consumption rather than their collective power or purpose. There are lots of young Gen Zers who are doing amazing work across college campuses towards collective liberation. Love to see it. But on the other side, there's those who are like, it's not that deep. Why can't you just let people enjoy things? And a lot of these mentalities are shaped by social media, are shaped by the digital immersion that today's youth find themselves in. The ruling class uses influencers as spokespersons to actively undermine collective consciousness, particularly among the youth. A population that desires to be forever young and childish is a population that won't pay attention when the government is trampling on their rights, who doesn't care that oligarchs control everything, including our government, who allows those same oligarchs from the ruling class to sell you viral trends to keep you from paying attention to the fact that an exploited workforce and mindless population is required to keep these trend cycles churning. If we want to see this generation deprogrammed to be as revolutionary as generations of young people before them, we have to create a culture that encourages being a person of substance and a person who isn't desensitized or selfish. We have to create a culture of people who aren't obsessed with themselves or the next viral trend. We have to create a culture that can cultivate the kind of person that doesn't seek to perpetually escape through childlike comforts, but someone who seeks true liberation in the collective sense, so you don't have to keep running away. And that, my friends, is all I've got for you today. But I would definitely love to hear from you in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on the Labubu craze and Squishmallows and the Hello Kitty, the Dubai chocolate, and the never-ending stream of childish consumerist junk that keeps going viral? I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. And if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And if you really liked it, then definitely hit that subscribe button. And if you want to see what I'm up to outside of YouTube, you can follow me on my social media profiles down here, as well as my Patreon, where you can contribute for $1.50 a month or $5 a month if you're feeling a little bit more generous, all of which helps to keep the lights on here on my channel. And besides all that, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you all next time.